Every time you put that on the recording, I gotta do some shit. All right.
Listen.
I'm not gonna be party to that.
Here we go. Listen. All right, here. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Stasny, and this is Alcohol and Politics. Today we've got Ted Moss, Private Investigations. Say hi.
Hi, what's up?
That's enough. We got Kelsey Lauschen with Elder Care Professionals of Ohio, Kels. And we got Dr. Frank with Broadview Chiropractic. Hi, Frank.
Hello.
What are we all drinking here? Since it's alcohol and politics, Frank, you're drinking vitamin water.
I'm actually
Kelsey,
vitamin water with vodka.
Okay. And so you get vitamin water with vodka. Kelsey's got non-alcoholic beer.
I've got the Corona.
I'm drinking water. This is fantastic.
Vaccine.
But I am popping pills. I just had some D3, some zinc, and some ibuprofen.
Right.
But hey, I was drinking through the day. We were drinking through the day.
I had a Sucrets earlier. So
Sucrets.
Yeah, you remember that?
So tonight's topic, ladies and gentlemen, I thought would be vaccinations. Mm-hmm. And do we get them? Do we not? I know some people prefer to live life with the vaccine in us, and some people think it's poison. I love that we've got Kelsey on here and Dr. Frank, because I know how you guys think. Let's put the gloves on and go friggin' at it. Let me tell you where I with this whole coronavirus thing. So when it first came out 2 years ago, the news scares the shit out of you. They do. They scare the shit out of you. And I was really worried when we had the shutdown. And somebody said, a good friend of mine said, hey, this is bullshit. It's all bullshit. He said, take a look at everybody you know, and you know a lot of people. And I said, yeah. He said, how many people do you know that is sick or dead from coronavirus? And at the time, I'm like, shit, I don't know anybody. And I got to thinking, I'm like, this is what the news does. They scare the shit out of you. So the first round of COVID for the first year during the shutdown, I knew nobody. I'm like, this is all bullshit. Because here's the one thing that I don't regret with anything is I'm tired of relying on the news because they always embellish the truth, and nobody can trust them. Whether you sit on the left side or the right side, none of us can trust the news, and it's a shame. But I do trust my own eyes, what I witness, my own self, what I trust. And so, fast forward to December of 2021, just a month ago, I had 3 friends hospitalized with it. And 2 of them almost died from it. And so when you hear 3 of your friends on the phone in the hospital gasping for air, kind of changes the way you see things. However, me personally, when it comes to the vaccination, I'm not sold on it. People say you need the vaccination because if you get the virus,
She's not getting it.
She's not getting it. Stop it. If you get the virus, it will be easier on you if you have the vaccination. But here is what I have heard. I have friends, and I'm gonna go down the list with them. I gotta leave the names out because I don't have their permission. My buddy, his wife got the first Johnson & Johnson vaccination. The next day,
We'll call him Larry.
No, it wasn't J&J. It was Pfizer. She got the first Pfizer. What did you say?
We'll call him Larry.
The janitor.
Just for sake of argument.
She got the first Pfizer vaccination, and the next day wound up in the hospital with heart complications, ended up with a stent put in her heart. And the doctor said it's from the vaccination. That's that story. That's my friend and his wife. His brother works for Big Pharma, one of the companies. I won't say the company, but the brother said, do not take these vaccinations. They're too new on the market. It's too new. We don't have enough information about them. So that's what his brother said after his wife ended up in the hospital getting a stent put in her heart. That's just one story. Another story is my buddy, his next door neighbor ended up getting one, I don't know, it was the booster shot or the vaccination, got it, and the next day, heart complications. That's the second story. Third story, my friend, her coworker has two people in her life, her cousin and her niece. Now, these are people that I know very well. So when I hear these stories, she's not lying. These people aren't lying to me. These are firsthand stories I'm hearing. Her coworker's cousin and niece, cousin 60 years old, gets the booster shot, dead within, I don't know how many days, 3 days, 4 days. Her niece, 32 years old, dies within a day or two. Cause of death for both of them? Unknown. We have no idea what the cause of death was, but they just got the frickin' booster shot. That's where my head is. I've taken coronavirus serious, but I ain't sold on this frickin' vaccination. Will I ever get it? I don't know. But I'm gonna shut my face now and let you people talk.
I think we're done. We've solved it.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this was Alcohol and Politics. Join us next week when we talk about it.
So, yeah, I'll jump in real quick. So do
That'd
you
be
know what
great.
the least reliable form of evidence is in a criminal investigation?
Tell me.
Eyewitness accounts. So anecdotal evidence is the least reliable on both sides of the fence. So you can say, hey, I know people that have died from COVID. On the other hand, oh my gosh, I also know people that may have had complications from the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
So it's just the numbers and statistics. And I guess my position on the whole thing has always been, I think it really goes back to the government sort of heavy-handed overreach in terms of lockdowns. And I think that pushed a lot of people away from even trusting the vaccine at all and not looking at any of the data. And honestly, look at it. So I'm not qualified to talk about that part.
Next. Who
Yeah.
else would like
So
to
go
go?
ahead.
I
That's
want
it,
to hear
that's
from
all.
Frank.
All right.
Leave it. Hang on. Leave it to the counselor. Leave it to her to get everybody else's input before she puts hers in.
I didn't say anything. I'm
I
just a very good listener.
She really is.
So, well, I mean, Tony, you know my view on it. So one, vaccines in general, you go back and the premise of the vaccination, and I use that term loosely, is already flawed. So prior to this, and you go back to the early works and based on Jenner and the flawed medicine used in that time, and when you really follow the history of medicine, period, vaccines have had very little benefit in the grand scheme of things. We haven't eradicated any type of illnesses because we've introduced vaccines, and the numbers prove it time and time again. So then we get into a situation that we have right now with what I believe to be a planned, plotted, very well thought out pandemic at best, where the numbers are inaccurate, and there we can go into that in a moment. And they want to introduce a supposed vaccine, but this is not a vaccine. This is an mRNA. And when you listen to the gentleman who pioneered and invented the technology on this period, Dr. Robert Malone, who has said from the very beginning, don't do this, do not put it into the bodies. When they show the tests of all the mRNA vaccines they've given to ferrets and cats, and that when they were exposed to illness prior and them all dying. So the mRNA, number one, is not even a vaccine, and we use that term, so I don't even think we should use that term. It is gene therapy. So we're taking a flawed principle, and we're making it worse by something that's not even a true vaccine. I honestly, I never wanted to be the "I told you so" guy. I called this whole thing in March of 2020.
What do you mean? What did you call?
I said from the beginning. I said this to Eric, not using his last name, but we were just having nurses. I said, this is what I said. I said this. I go, this is not going to be as bad. They should not be trying to distance. You should not be locking stuff down. Putting masks on people is the worst thing you can do. I go, this is all a push. You watch within a year to get a bunch of people vaccinated on some kind of drug. I go, that's the end game. You watch. And he laughed at me. And here we are. I said that on March, let's see, what was the day? That was the day before they locked 17th, so March 15th of 2020, after I had to pick my daughter up when they shut the colleges down and she had to take a bus back to Cleveland. And I was driving her out of Cleveland. So
Yeah, but so there's that. But what about and I'm seeing my friends, post stuff on Facebook about, it's a cold virus. Do you shut things down for the flu? But I tell you, I've been on this planet for 48 years. I've never seen a cold virus or the flu take somebody like they did my friends and shove them in the hospital. this.
Take this into consideration. I don't want to take away from Kelsey's time and opinion on this, but just on,
Go
um,
ahead.
so, and this is, listen, I'm empathetic. I mean, I got into my profession because I feel I do care about others. And so when I hear that, yeah, I don't want you to have to go through that and lose a loved one in any way. But the truth is we all go and we're all going to have something. And so if this would have been a similar conversation 7 years ago, could have you said, oh yeah, I have an aunt right now, she's not, but it would have never come up because there was nothing about a pandemic. This is the word at every kitchen table, on the news,
Yeah.
in every business meeting, at the bar. So now that's the first question. When someone says, oh yeah, I have to go see a sick relative, your first thought is it COVID? That was
Yeah.
never a thing. So now, yeah, we always have people around us getting sick, getting ill, getting hospitalized, dying. It's unfortunate. It's life. But now it's highlighted because of this. Now, many of these cases are not in fact actually COVID. How are they? How do we know? At the beginning, the way this was diagnosed, and they had the head of the Department of Health for Illinois, and I don't recall the other states, but they all basically had almost what was looked to be or sounded like a scripted explanation, stating that the way things got categorized as a COVID death were as if they were possible or probable. Probable meaning, well, they had a couple symptoms. It could have been a cough and a headache, but if they died. So they said, even if, for example, even if, yes, you are in hospice and you happen to have COVID or likely to have COVID, it will go down as a COVID death. On top of that, they're putting in this remdesivir, and which has a high rate of kidney failure. I think it's 1 in 3. Last I checked, remdesivir causes kidney failure. Kidney failure leads to edema, pulmonary edema. And so if they're treating a pulmonary edema case, like a pneumonia case, that person is going to die because that's not the problem. You treat them totally different.
So this remdesivir, is that what it's called?
Yep.
So there's two things I wanted to bring up on this call. That was one of them, and the other is ivermectin. Both of them are so controversial, and it's all seems to be political. Like if you're on the left, ivermectin is bad and this remdesivir is good. If you're on the right, ivermectin is good and remdesivir is bad. I mean, it blows my freaking mind. So what are your thoughts on well, I know what it is on remdesivir, but what about ivermectin? Is it good? Is it bad?
Well, I mean, are you asking me or Kelsey?
Both. I'm throwing
I can't answer that question.
Okay. So what I have seen, what I have heard, so I haven't taken it, but from what I have seen statistically, it's basically harmless. And if you're going to take it almost like you're going to take an aspirin. So yeah, it may help, but I don't have any data or stats that show that it helps. That I don't know.
So people send me stuff, and I get stuff sent to me from medical professionals, doctors, nurses, and their talks. They're standing in front of podiums and they talk about all the credentials they have, and they'll stand up there and talk about how ivermectin's the answer, how remdesivir is not. And then it's so much information that comes through, and I'll pay attention to some of it. And whatever I hear on this side, that's praising this stuff as a glory drug or as as the answer, there's other people with the same freaking type of credentials, the same type of professionals going, this is horrible for you. And it's like, what in the hell are you supposed to freaking believe?
Well, yeah, that's good. You know what? I'm going to go with Ted on that. I'm going to go to the numbers, not eyewitness accounts. You go to the numbers. How many people are dying from taking ivermectin? Because I can tell you this, if people were dying from taking ivermectin, the news would have, one person dies from taking ivermectin, it's going to be all over the news. Yeah. How many people have died from remdesivir? Well, go back into the research. Fauci was implementing this and using this back on HIV positive patients, 20, 30 years ago. And what they found when they were using this was 1 in 3 experienced kidney failure. Not, oh, my kidneys hurt, or no, oh, it hurts when I pee. Kidney failure. And when your kidneys fail, your body fills up with fluid. And it fills up in the areas that is vacant of tissue, like the lungs.
Mm.
And so that was the whole thing that people say, well, if you had HIV, people don't actually die from HIV. What you die from is you catch a disease and you catch pneumonia, and that's the most common. True. But pneumonia is not pulmonary edema. One's filling up the lung itself with fluid, which honestly, you can perforate that and aspirate it out. And the other has to be treated, well, usually with an antibiotic or some other more aggressive means.
Panic.
Now, you know,
Yes.
another point, Tony, that I wanted to bring up earlier is this: when you get into anecdotal evidence and eyewitness accounts, that's not to say they have no value, but here's the thing. I personally don't know anybody that died of COVID. I know a lot of people that have died from
With it.
that have died from overdoses, heroin overdoses, right? Opioid.
Oh, yeah. There's another pandemic
So
there.
my point is
That's an epidemic, not a pandemic.
right, yeah, it is an epidemic, yeah. And my point is this though, and there's numbers on that, and there's, if I look at personal experience, I also know a lot. I've known in the past, my grandmother died of the flu, right? I had an aunt that died of the flu. Like, people died of the flu for a long time. Now, I don't know what those numbers are, but you could make the argument that, you know, at one point it was the flu, which has had all these different variants over the years, right? Was the scourge that we all avoided. So, but the government didn't lock us down. What was it? The H1N1? Was that the swine flu?
Yep.
I had that, and I would be proud to say that I probably infected about 5,000 people at a Tony Robbins event. So, hey, Tony.
Great. Now Tony can never put this out anywhere. We got to protect 10 now.
Listen, I stuck to it, and I did the fire walk at the end.
Oh, good. Hey, your question, you asked what the numbers were. According to the CDC in 2019, there was 61,000 deaths that were associated with the flu in the United States. 61,000, which was an unusually high number, but it usually goes somewhere around the 50. Is that?
So let's just say for just the sake of
I know
saying it.
What do I say? You're saying shit.
I wasn't gonna say shits and giggles.
No.
So your grandma was probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen. Let's just say. Let's say that coronavirus it doesn't exist. That COVID doesn't exist. And let's just say that all this stuff that's going on, it's not COVID. It's just a bad case of the flu. But it's a pretty bad fucking case of the flu that's going around. I mean, Kels, you just had it.
Agreed.
It wasn't fun. My ex-wife had it. She said she thought she was dying from it.
I thought I was going in the hospital. Yep.
He just got out of the hospital today, yesterday, 9 weeks. And we thought he was dead, man. He was in for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And then they ended up putting him on ventilator, feeding tube, and went into a coma for 5 days. He miraculously came out of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm freaking seeing it, man. I'm seeing people get really sick from this.
But here's the question: we're not saying people don't get sick. I'm not saying it's not. It's a thing. It clearly.
It's a thing.
It's killing people. It's making people sick. The question is, if I'm not, if you're vaccinated, and I'm not. You're not, but I'm saying if you were vaccinated, I'm not vaccinated, and I come in here, you're like, whoa, you're gonna make me sick. It's like, well, how can I make you sick? You're vaccinated,
yeah, right. I know
so,
that.
So there's this logic thing that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, you got to protect yourself. Like, well, I don't need to protect myself because you're vaccinated. You can't give it to me. You can't get it. And they're like, well, yes,
right.
you can.
That's the news.
So is that a vaccine?
That's
Or is that a
So I'm gonna, and I'll ask Frank to kind of describe this from a biochemical definition. There's a difference between a vaccine and a vaccination.
and a vaccine.
And it's
Yeah.
really important. And that's one thing that people don't understand. I know, and I can't break it down, I'm sure, the same way he can. But you have to understand. So when we're talking about a flu, that's a vaccination. That's not a vaccine. when we had polio, measles, mumps, those are vaccines. Those eradicate an illness. You will not get it. It's almost impossible. I mean, 99.99999% impossible that you will get an illness if you get a vaccine.
Sure.
A vaccination is not. So, you know, when you hear people say, "Oh, I went and I got my flu shot, and then 2 days later, God, I had the flu." Well, yeah, you may have gotten the flu. It's not the same flu that you got the vaccination for, though. It's another strain.
Mhm.
And people don't understand that. That's the science that people understand. So they're throwing these terms around and they really don't understand what they're talking about. So, and the media does a wonderful job at that too.
Sure.
They're not scientists either, and they haven't studied science, so they're saying this shit that doesn't make sense. So it just confuses people even
Does.
more.
And I think it makes people reluctant to get it. And I think, but the question for me is always this issue of government overreach, forcing me to get a
Oh, sure.
vaccination.
Yeah.
And
Right.
threatening my livelihood, you can't even go to a show and
Right.
at the theater now or in New York.
Without showing your card. Right.
It seems a little bit over the top for, you know, what we've all believed to be, you know, the freedoms we have in this country, right? So that's where that's where I think it gets sticky.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's just,
I guess that's another issue though, because the question you're asking is of whether people, you know, what are our opinions on whether people should get vaccinated or not?
Right, sure.
That's
But
a whole different
But I
discussion.
think that's what keeps people from doing it. There's a certain resistance to, my God, you lock down, you know, and now even the mainstream media, even the pundits that were promoting, you know, masks and vaccinations and lockdowns have all come backwards and said, hey, you know what, maybe that was too much, right?
And think about and you just said it a few minutes ago, like things that are like, they're just, there's no logic to them. If I get vaccinated and you're not vaccinated, then I need to worry that I'm going to get something from you because you're not vaccinated and I am. That makes absolute no sense to me.
I happen to be vaccinated.
Whatever.
Well, and so here's the other component of that is this vaccination has an expiration date on its efficacy. And that's, you know, I had a breakthrough infection.
That's
Effective.
Right.
Yeah, so I had a breakthrough infection. I believe that probably during the time after I got vaccinated, I was definitely around a lot of people, and I truly believe that I should have gotten sick if I wasn't vaccinated. I believe that being vaccinated helped me. That's just my belief. I don't regret it. Did I want to get it? No, but I did it because, Frank, I work in senior health, right?
Sure.
I'm around the most vulnerable population there is. And that's where I was seeing deaths every single day. So I've been around the death squad. I've been around Southwest General. I get my reports every 2 weeks. I see people coming in, and we do statistics on all of the people that get admitted and to see who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated. And still the numbers show in our hospital, 90% of the people that have been hospitalized are unvaccinated. What does that mean? I don't know. It's just information, so I go, okay, so, but then again, I look at all the other variables with these people. So like, you brought up, Ted, like, who gets sick, who doesn't get sick. Well, I believe that if you had a comorbidity, okay, if you had another illness, if you had diabetes, cancer, high blood pressure, cardiac issue, whatever, the whole host of these things, and you get it, yeah, you're probably at a much higher risk for death, right? I would have never thought, and Tony knows this, I am the poster child of health and fitness. And all I do is practice health and fitness every single day. Every single day. I thought if I got it, like you guys said, I thought, I'd get the sniffles. I was unbelievably, I've never been so sick in my life. Unbelievable. You know, day 4, I thought I was going in the hospital because I could not breathe. This was so frightening to me. I couldn't even believe it. So it like raised my awareness of don't fuck around with this thing, right? This is not fun and games. And this is week 5 for me, and I still have symptoms.
Well, you know what? And I haven't, I had to get, I chose to get vaccinated because of my former better half and her children, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to, I didn't want to, I didn't want to expose them, right? So
Right.
but the truth is, I really didn't want to.
So,
And, yeah.
if it's true, and I heard this, all you people got vaccinated,
Yeah.
you're only gonna be dead in 3 years.
I know,
Yeah,
that's
now
true.
listen,
Yeah.
That's fair.
if
Thanks.
that's true, I want you to know, first of all, I'll miss you dearly because I
Right.
love you guys.
Right.
Secondly, Frank, can you imagine the lines at the freaking grocery stores, Christmas shopping, Cedar Point? There'll be no more lines. Like,
Yeah.
there'll be no more traffic.
What do you want to do?
I'm saying there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's always a brighter way of looking at
Tony,
things.
listen,
Well,
here's the deal though. You know, I'm going through some things right now. There's a much greater chance that I'm going to go on some sort of a,
Stop.
well, I'm just going to say,
This is being recorded.
okay, never mind. I'm just saying that I'm going to go out with a, not with a whimper.
See, and that's interesting. So the whole thing was the vaccine, and if I would have known this, I would be a little more prepared for the topic. I do have
You're doing this.
I
You know
know
what, Tony? I'm
He's a
sorry,
politician.
I just went with my-
well,
Yeah.
of course, it's become a political thing, I suppose, right? Which is crazy in and of itself.
Call Vince. Get Vince on this call.
But here's the thing, wait, here's the good thing. This is what I was having. So my whole thing on everything here, you'll see and it should be the science. You're right. Science is great, but you know what? Today's science is so, people think science is, it's more of an art. They think it's always infallible. They think science never makes mistakes. Science evolves. It took years to get a polio vaccine. It took years to get to the point where we could get vaccines that could actually eradicate things. And this came out so fast. They threw so much at us. And I think at the end of the day, I never thought I'd live to see the government shutting down our business. I told people, no way, they'll never do that. People will not stand for that, right? And they did. And
However, I do have to say, if you look what's going on in other countries and people bitch and complain about what's going on here, I'd much rather be here than over in a third world country right now that have they shut them down when there's one positive. Yeah, and it's shut down the entire city for another 14 days. So I get that, Ted, and I don't like it either, but I go, at least we have free reign. No one's stopping us from doing anything now. I mean,
hey, at least I'm not Janice. Her husband beats her every night. I only get it once in a while. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Like, when I look at it, it's like the government has limited authority. Now, Roger Bundy already answered this in another Alcohol Politics, which you guys might check out, about how much authority they have, right? But
I don't remember that one.
He did, yeah, no, oh my God, he had all the facts and basically said, yep, they can do it. And the reason they can do it is because you elected the people that made the laws that allowed them to do it. Now the Ohio legislature passed a law where now they can override the governor and they can override the health department. That was happened in the last year. So the Republican controlled Congress here in Ohio could stop that, and that's a benefit to, so you need oversight on these things, and that's just my whole thing. So the vaccination, my point is, you have to get a vaccine or you're going to lose your job. The Supreme Court just said, nope, that's
that just happened.
You're not going to do that, right? Except for healthcare workers, which I didn't read the whole article.
But they did still open up to medical and
healthcare
exemptions for the healthcare people.
Yes.
Right.
Which is okay. So I guess that's a good thing.
You better get one.
Yeah, it helped us at the hospital tremendously because we had a lot of people that were going to walk out because they passed the any healthcare institution that received Medicaid and Medicare dollars was going to be required. And
That was,
so that was passed. Say that again, Frank.
you think that's unusual too? I mean, let's look at that. Why did they give them a little bit of room on those people treating Medicare and Medicaid, right? And we both know the answer to that. It's the money. It's the money.
Totally.
Right, because Medicare came out and said, hey, you know what? If you don't get your people vaccinated,
Right.
we're not paying you.
We're going to pull it. Right.
Yeah, we're pulling cash.
That's exactly.
But if you
Yeah.
do, and you play nice and you listen to us, we'll give you a 20% bump in the usual
Right.
customary. Keeping in
Yep.
mind that Medicare money is our money. That's our money coming out of our
Right.
tax dollars.
Right.
So that's why there is so that part of it confused me a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about, well, I shouldn't say confused me. It was suspicious that, okay, so I
Mhm.
think what's going on is, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give
Government
you
is
guys
not
this.
suspicious.
What's it?
I said government's never suspicious.
Yeah, that's kind of redundant even saying that, but so that I thought that was interesting. That
Yeah. So thank goodness that didn't pass, because it stopped a lot of employees from leaving the hospital, which is already inundated. Last Friday, I got the report from the hospital. We had 60 people out sick with COVID. And for a little hospital, you pull 60 people off, and then you've got, 40% of the people that were coming in the hospital, if anyone that comes in the hospital gets tested, 40% of every admission that was coming into the hospital were testing positive, and the majority of them didn't even know that they had it.
you trust the test.
Right.
Yeah, I do trust the test. And so the problem with that is that we're lacking staff. You've got all these people are coming in for other issues. They're not just COVID issues. There are other issues, right? People are coming in because they got stabbed, or they fell down, they broke their hip, or whatever. And we don't have enough employees to take care of them, So then they so here was the interesting thing, Ted, too. So then the CDC comes out and they cut the length of time for people to be, what's the term, like sequestered. And I still have some COVID brain too, so I can't come up with words.
Quarantine.
Yeah, the quarantine
10 days.
down to 5 days. So I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Right. So it makes you go, So are you saying that if a person's asymptomatic, they're not contagious? Is that the message that you're giving? Because that's complete hypocrisy. Because that's how most of us got it in the first place, is by being around people who are asymptomatic. I'm not going to stand next to somebody who's coughing up shit in their hand, right? I'm standing next to somebody who's asymptomatic. So now the CDC passes that it's only 5 days for healthcare workers, because we're sending all these people home from the hospital that can't work there from the senior living communities because they're testing positive, but they're asymptomatic. It's just so, the messaging is so contradictory. And it's like, what are we supposed to do? All my friends that work in senior care get tested twice a day, every day.
But you know what?
Twice a day.
It would have been like this if the CDC would have came out, or if anybody was truly honest, because they've been disingenuous from day one and said, listen, we really don't know what we're doing.
Right.
We got this thing, we think it's going to work, but it's science, and science evolves, and science is fallible, and we're going to have to test and measure. But we got to do something, because if we don't, this is going to happen, right?
Right.
And then when this doesn't happen, we were all expecting the zombie apocalypse, which I'm very disappointed.
I am too. I saw Walking Dead.
I was ready to chop somebody's head off, but
Rick.
didn't happen.
Don't worry, it ain't over yet. It ain't over yet.
Oh, it's a vaccine, right? You and me are going to be zombie skills. So
That's not what I
hot zombies. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. All right. But at any rate, so yeah. But I think really, but you can't do that because people panic, and that's the other thing we've played into here. It's all fear, right? So, as my good friend Tony Robbins says,
It is so funny you said that. There's a story behind that.
you sneezing over there. Shut the F up. He said that. But he says, what's fear? Right? False evidence that appears real,
Yeah.
right? We fear what we don't understand. And you know what? And I'm guilty of it too, because I'm like, oh my God, the government's shutting us down. They're going to crack down. They're going to be marching down the streets any minute, right? I think now they're kind of, I think they're trying to backpedal a little bit, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Great.
this has been Alcohol and Politics. Before we go, let's we'll have at least 4 people that view this, so we might as well give ourselves a plug.
by the way,
That's what she said.
brought to you by Kenmar Tax.
Oh.
Yeah, Bill. So, Dr.
are we
Frank,
plugging?
yeah, we'll give a quick plug.
Why not for Ken Weinberg?
Will you stop interrupting?
I like Ken Weinberg.
So,
Oh, hold on.
Dr. Frank, you've got more than chiropractic going on. What do you got for the chubbies that want to lose some weight?
Be nice.
Oh my gosh.
You
Didn't
know
say
what?
that.
We have
Me, aren't you?
mostly I'm working with people with diabetes and thyroid conditions. So a lot of the individuals I work with either can't just go on a traditional, we'll call it weight loss plan, or join Weight Watchers. They need to watch their blood sugar, their medications, and everything else. So we'll work with them, and a good percentage of those have neuropathy. So we've been working a lot with diabetic neuropathies, and even neuropathies due to chemotherapy and alcoholism, and some cool stuff going on.
Neuropathy comes in handy if you bar fight.
And you are located. So what's the name of your place and where are you located?
Broadview Health Center, right in Broadview Heights, at the northwest corner, Broadview and 82.
Okay, awesome. Kelsey, anything you want to plug with EPO?
Hold on a second, will you?
We'll come back to you. Ted,
Okay.
you need somebody tailed, right? What do you do, Ted?
Well, let's say you have a girlfriend.
And why are you dressed in blackface right now?
Uh,
Oh, because you were out on a job.
Right. At any rate, no, if you need, let's talk about background checks. Simplified screening,
Simplified screening.
simplified-screening.com. You know what? We believe in the adage, trust but verify. So if you're going to hire somebody, you want to put them in charge of the money, maybe you want to know if they have a theft conviction. If they're going to go into somebody's home, if you have contractors, maybe you want to know if they're have some violent tendencies. Maybe you don't want to let them do that. Background checks, it's a good way to protect your business and save money.
We should put you in all the BNI chapters. Kels,
So I always have to have something funny.
Oh, where'd you get that video of Tony?
it's
Love that. One of the many giggles that Tony and I share. Let's see. So I would say, my business is all about taking care of people who take care of people. So I am, recruiting clients. I want to do more coaching, more counseling with people. And, unfortunately, my name of my business is Elder Care Professionals of Ohio, and I do a lot of work with people who are not elderly. So probably need to come up with another business name. So we'll get there.
Almost
I just like helping people.
elder care.
almost elderly elder care.
Elderly elder care.
But
So
I
that-
will be able to, I'm excited to say, starting Monday, I'm going through my training at the private practice I'm going to be working at, and I will be able to bill insurance, and I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, no more private pay.
So that's cool.
So yeah, it'd be really nice.
Someone told me something about private pay, so that's
It's a
advantageous.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I have a guy tomorrow, and he's like, I really want to work with you every week, but it's really hard to afford that privately.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand. So
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next week when we talk about abortions.
I don't know.
the text, yeah, we could talk about, I almost brought that up in
That's-
relation to this.
Wait, I got
Talk
out.
about government getting involved with something they have no business in.
Right,
Holy mackerel.
right.
Coat hangers or not coat hangers?
That's
To
what I'm
be-
saying.
Stop it.
So
At home
there.
or at the hospital.
Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Good night, guys.
Not
Nice
to
to
hang
meet you,
out.
Frank.
We're just gonna stop
You
recording.
too, Kelsey.